Highlights of Miles Guo's live broadcast on March 28, 2020. CCP virus pandemic. The UK. Markets. G20 summit. And Hong Kong. The UK and pandemic. It is sad to know that the Queen, Prince Charles, Prime Minister, Health Secretary are infected by the coronavirus. So are the heads of 3 out of the 4 most prestigious families. All have made 3 essential mistakes. Firstly, they have been misled by the government. Boris Johnson has absolutely been blinded by the CCP and has licked the bottom of the CCP. He has believed the CCP's false data and trade-offs as well as the information fed by his subordinates who have been compromised by the CCP through coercion, bribe or honey trap. Among Western countries, the UK has comparatively poor social security system. Boris Johnson's government is weak, incompetent, naive, ignorant and arrogant. It held that the British were strong enough to withstand the virus. Using a fearing approach, the health agencies stated that all people would be infected by the virus, all must be in quarantine, 500,000 to 800,000 were expected to die. Meanwhile, the tabloid released various possibilities to give people a bit of hope. Secondly, they have wrong cognitions about the virus, assuming it to be safe if avoiding hand-touching the virus. They also assume that, in case of contagion, taking pills and seeing private doctors could treat the disease. They are victimized by their power, money and arrogance. Finally, nearly all references used by the British media, big and small including the BBC, have been the CCP's statistics. The whole British society from top to bottom are misled by money, politics and media. The cost is that the Buckingham Palace and the most prestigious families are infected. Felled by the CCP virus, the UK would regress to the aftermath of the World War II. The CCP virus. The CCP's mishandling of the virus epidemic has enabled the world to see its thuggery and mafia-like nature. It mirrors the CCP's ruling of China with falsehood. Along with the pandemic, the CCP has extended falsehood abroad and lied to the whole world. All CCP's statistics are false. Everywhere people remark that the CCP is completely untrustworthy. The CCP has been abusing the pandemic to hijack 1.4 billion Chinese and millions of overseas Chinese. Inciting hatred, expelling and scaring overseas Chinese in various countries, the CCP has tricked overseas Chinese to return to China. Thus the CCP can enslave them and misappropriate their assets arbitrarily. Thanks to the efforts of Miles Guo and his followers, a worldwide consensus has been reached that the CCP does not represent the Chinese people and that the virus should be called the CCP virus rather than the Chinese virus, as having been corrected by President Trump. Economic stimulus packages and markets. It is joked that the virus has achieved in the US what bin Laden failed to do. To overcome economic recession, governments have adopted stimulus packages. However, to achieve such a goal will be extremely costly, taking into consideration global foreign debt that actually amounts to $280 trillion. Miles Guo predicts that it would take the US $25 to $45 trillion, the UK $6 trillion, Japan $5 to $6 trillion, China all its worth and no payback for its $40 trillion foreign debt. The US government's $2 trillion are only sufficient to activate the volatilities of the stock market so that the big investors are able to pull out. It is too risky for individuals to join and play the game. Many funds have gone bankrupt. Gold cannot be used as circulating currency. Thus it cannot buy masks or staple food. It is necessary to have cash. Unless one is in China or Hong Kong, don't buy gold. Oil prices to drop to the same as water. Shanghai, Shenzhen and Hong Kong stock exchanges are falsehood. The tradings have been 100% manipulated by the CCP. So has the exchange rate of the Chinese currency. The Chinese stock exchanges reflect the CCP's false economy, blooming and direction. G20 Summit. The latest G20 summit targeted to solve the virus pandemic. The CCP's ostentation, formalism, bureaucracy, lofty disdain and wild ambition were completely bared. It solemnly and seriously lied to the world. The epidemic in China has been brought under control. There is basically zero contagion. Most business and factories have restarted working. China has always played the role of a responsible country. It has established a role model for the world in containing the virus. The people in Wuhan Hubei have paid a huge price. This proves that socialism with Chinese characteristics meets the people's demand. Hence the CCP went on selling its scheme. Facing this historical challenge in this troubling time, we must unite together. Open your market, reduce and remove your tariffs for Chinese imports, accept the Belt and Road Initiative. Made in China 2025, 2035, 2049 plans. Restructure new U.S.-China relationships. Establish multipolar governance jointly led by the U.S., China and Russia. Recover international economic and trade orders as defined by the WTO Free Trade Agreement. Promote globalization model. Fortunately, the leaders had been well informed of the CCP scheme beforehand by the intelligence obtained by Miles Guo through internal documents and data. Actual details of the CCP's presentation verified the 100% trueness of Guo's intelligence. Thus the CCP's scheme to entrap and subdue the leaders has entirely failed. Hong Kong. Never 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 forget Hong Kong. Thousands of Hong Kongish have been murdered. Every day there are people bleeding or disappeared. Their assets are misappropriated. Girls are raped and gang raped. The Hong Kong police have turned rape, gang rape and slaughter into a norm. Tragedy. The intelligence communities of multiple countries gave feedback that in hindsight, Miles Guo's intelligence has been verified to be true. From the 20th May to the 17th June, the CCP government enforced undeclared martial law in Hong Kong. Thousands of PLA and PAP were deployed and disguised as Hong Kong policemen to oppress the protesters. Thousands of vehicles, that were painted in mainland Dongguan, Shenzhen, Zhuhai as those used by Hong Kong police force and paramedics, were driven across the border and operated in Hong Kong. The CCP has infiltrated and subdued all sectors of Hong Kong society including the four shameless groups. Various PLA garrisons have been used to jail and slaughter protesters. Thousands of girls and boys were raped, gang raped, sodomized before being murdered. Their families were silenced, likely to be slaughtered as well, as in the case of Chan Yinlum's mother. 1 to 2,000 Hong Kongish were planned to be arrested. Thousands of protesters with mainland origin were arrested and transferred back to China. Quasi-bioweapon and bioweapon were used to crack down protests. The sacrifice of Hong Kong youngsters has saved both Taiwan and the world. The UK Defence Department has confirmed that in case the extradition bill got passed in Hong Kong, the CCP would certainly have launched military assaults to take over Taiwan. 3 plans had been prepared and relevant resources had been disposed. It was not that Madam Tsai Ing-wen who won the election but that Hong Kongish lives had been Taiwan's shield and that the CCP lost the battle to Hong Kongish. Hong Kong will become the holy city of Jerusalem to all Chinese and Taiwanese nationals. Without acknowledging Hong Kongish sacrifice, Tsai and Taiwan people would pay the price of being abandoned by the world. Western countries are gradually convinced that the virus is of close relevance to the CCP's quelling of Hong Kong protests. Used to pity Hong Kong people, Western countries are now feeling the pain themselves. Originally assuming the virus was restrictively transmittable between Chinese and Orientals, they have found in horror that it is contagious to Spanish, Italian, British, French, German, Canadian with even worse effect. After the G20 summit, the Western countries are going to form a united force to press the CCP to be accountable as to how the virus emerged as well as to clarify how the virus is related to the Hong Kong protests. With no knowledge about the relevance between Hong Kong and the virus, any country could be next in turn, as inferred from the G20 summit. The world is acknowledging that Hong Kong is the first gate for the CCP to proceed to hell. Taiwan has escaped from the CCP's political and military assaults at the cost of Hong Kong youngsters' lives. The world is experiencing an unprecedented calamity created by the CCP virus. Only when the whole world is united to bring down the CCP will all peoples be free from fear and peril. Thanks for watching.